Well, good evening everybody, welcome back to Fatman Paints. I hope you've had a good day, a good weekend. Had a couple of days off from painting, we're busy with some other bits and pieces. But we're back with probably a relatively short stream tonight. I just want to finish off the base of our Mawloc here, at least as much as possible. We're doing a couple of dry brushing, bit of Vallejo Cork Brown, followed by Vallejo Desert Yellow, and then Vallejo Dark Sand. Then when I've done those, I'll be using the Cork Brown to do a rim around the base to go. I have thrown up a couple of images on Instagram on my channel of how this guy is sitting at the moment with the base as it is. So if you have a look, once we've done our actual basing, I'll put some more up and you can see the difference between the various layers we're putting on here. So I'm just going to kick off. We don't have a lot of people with us so far. So I'm just going to push on. We're going to dry brush on the base. We're going to hopefully get a bit of progress on this and get it looking much better than it is at the moment. So as I said, we're going to start with a dry brush of Cork Brown. Then we're going to move on to some lighter shades. There'll be some reasonably heavy dry brushing going on. So what I want to do is kind of even out and lighten up that mucky brown that we've got sitting on there at the moment. We do as we've done with the painting of this layer before. We'll start at the outside, work round, go into the middle. Away we go. Really not enjoyed listening to the football this evening. For my sins, I've been a Manchester United fan for 50 years. Had some ups and downs. We're a really odd spot at the moment, it has to be said. It's not quite the club that it was 10 years ago. Seems a bit haphazard. We'll see. We've had our good years recently. See who else comes to the fore. Right, anyway. Push on. Nice. Pretty heavy layer of the Cork Brown. I'm going to put a bit more out in a minute too. Once the base of this Mawloc is done, it's off to get a varnish, seal everything in, and then finally there'll be a couple of little bits of gloss varnish that I'll do just with a brush, just make that mouth wet, make the eyes a bit shiny as well, and we can peel it from its base and we're done. We've got one off our outstanding list, and we'll move on to the next fellas as well. I think next up we've started some work on some gene stealers. So we've done the first couple of layers of the carapace. We need now to put in some feathering, and I've also done a pre-base and a bit of cleaning of a Screamer Killer and the Neuro Tyrant, both from the Leviathan box. And so they will probably get a prime the same time that this fella gets his Vosh varnish coat. Get the gloves out. Get the respirator. Hopefully it won't be too damp or too cold in the garage when I do this, because I don't do the spraying anywhere else. It's always in the garage. A little corner that I've set off for myself. And with that, we are a little bit dependent on the weather. Right, need a bit more paint. A lot more paint. Ooh. We'll have you running out. So this Vallejo Cork brown is also what I ended up using to paint the outside rim, the outside edge of the base. So once we've done all this painting, I'll do that edge, and once that's done, and I'm happy with it, the final touches will be a couple of little grass tufts here and there, just to add a little more interest into the base itself. So somewhere behind me I've got a bit of PVA. I've got I think it's like Mordian grass, Corpsegrass, and I'll be using that as the bits of grass that we need to put in here. So it will just really help break up the monotony of the brown that we've got here. Right, so we've got browned once, might go around again. Let's start working our way through the middle now. Catching these bits we've got in here, the rocks we put in, and the other textures that we popped in there a couple of days back. Dry brushing as a technique, it is awful for my brushes. Never mind. Dry brush those nooks and crannies we've got back there. I finally managed to get my light box arrangement sorted out over the past couple of days, so I've taken a couple of photos of some of the stuff that I've finished. So we'll upload a couple of those to Insta over the next few days. Spread them out over a little bit. We'll see how they should have. And also I think it's indicated I might need a new camera. The images aren't quite as good as I remember them to be. I'm going to need a little bit more work on that. But I really don't want to buy a new camera. I'm going to have to wait for Christmas or something before I can justify a purchase of a new digital SLR, because they're not cheap. several nights. Right, I think for a first coat this isn't far off. I'm just going to do a little bit around the outside again. I do enjoy painting up the bases. I'm not quite sure, it just feels like, well, it is nearly the final step, so maybe there's an element of that in here that it feels like, you know, you're nearly there. All that work's coming to an end. You're happy with how the model's been done. So on reflection, looking at this, it's okay. I have done better ones, but the lad likes it. I don't think it's too bad. It's quite intimidating in the battlefield, certainly compared to some of the other ones. He's a big old fella. Right, I'm happy with that one. I'm going to call it there for that first one, first layer. So let's clean up all paints. So I've got an old picture or piece of glass from an old picture frame here, which I use to pour out my various colours. It's non-absorbent and it's really easy to clean, as you can see. I just need to work with a small piece of tissue paper, lifts that right off. So it works quite well for mixing in that. You just put a bit of water on. I'm going to try and find just a pure white tile, because I think that'll be a bit easier to see, and I think the edges will be less sharp. I'm not saying that I've cut myself on there once or more. It also might just give a little more base for the actual colour mixing, rather than the green cutting that's shining through. Let's put this aside. Fresh water. Right. So that first we put on there was Vallejo Cork Brown. We'll be using him again, because like I said, we're doing him for the rim around. I'll just put him off to the side. Next up for us is Vallejo Desert Yellow. I'm just going to do the same again. Dry brush, work my way around. Start the outside, work into the middle. Spin in the vortex mixer. Dollop on my piece of glass. There we go. Sign it up. Start again. Let's move the scalpel, I don't need him today. You can see, putting it on here, it's a similar colour, just a bit lighter, just a bit yellower given the name. With each of these layers, it just brightens up and adds more and more contrast into the base itself. Nice to paint off. And let's start. So with this one, it does give the flatter areas a kind of dusty approach, dusty kind of feel to it, as well as just adding in some much more contrast into the more textured areas. Right, just keep you going. Still doing my utmost not to touch the model itself. Still keep using the base as the holding point. So once I started painting, I'm never quite happy to touch the thing until it's had its varnish coat or coats, depending on the size of the model. And even then, when I'm touching them after, I always try and wash my hands just to stop any grease in that coming, and ask the lad to do the same before he plays. Just give your hands a quick wash, take off all that grease from them. It just mean the figure and paint job will last a little bit longer while it's being played with, doing its job on the playing board. Right, it's going along nicely now. Maybe a little difficult to see with a crappy camera, but it's definitely quite a different colour than the really mucky, muddy kind of effect that we had just 20-15 minutes ago. A lot lighter, a lot more interest and contrast across it all as well. Exactly what I wanted to achieve. We've still got a lighter layer still to put across this, just a final layer of contrast and highlight into what we've got. I think, as I've said a few times, that what I do here is never going to win a Golden Demon. It's not going to be anybody's best model, but what it is hopefully a really good tabletop quality model. I've got a process, because they're all Tyranids for these fellas. I've got a written down process that I follow each paint, each technique for each part of the build. For body, for wings, for carapace, for claws, for the basing, all of it, so I don't have to remember, because my brain's a bit like Swiss cheese these days. But having that consistency, knowing what you do each time, means that all of the figures all are uniform for the tabletop. And as I said, I think with having a style and the approach that I use, having them all on the battlefield, it looks good, it looks nice. So that's the aim. Have something that looks good, is doable in a couple of nights, depending on the size of the model. How much yabbering I do on Twitch. said, also is more than passable for the tabletop. Right. Just do a little more in there. A little more in the middle there. Clean the brush again, and we'll rinse and repeat with the lighter colour. Make sure I just get right under the tail section as well. Right, just give you a momentary soak. Clean up my mess. All good. Most of this pigment out. And we can do the last colour. When I've done the last dry brush, I will give this a really good clean with brush soap. The dry brushing really does load up the bristles with a lot of pigment. You can see it's still coming out of here. It's not too much of a problem because we will have a lot more neat coloured pigment on here, but before we do any other colour with this, we will do it. Right, that's mostly out, so that's fine. I'm going to put you off to the side, you're a bit soggy. Get another piece. Right, last colour it is. So now we're going to do a dark sand as the final colour across the base before we go back to that cork brown to do the base red edge again. Dollop of paint. Just one more brush. Definitely looking a little worse for wear now. Once again, we're going to approach this in the same way. We're going to work around the back, around the outside, then into the middle. This one is going to be a much lighter dry brush, so I'm going to get a bit more of the pigment off before I start dragging it and touching it on. It's the last light one, so it's a bit quicker to do. reason I chose these colours for the basework is because it was all I had. Pretty much from the sets of browns that I had from my scale modelling paint collection, it was pretty much the only sets that I had that I thought would work for what I was trying to do. Luckily, I think I was right. Otherwise, the increasing brightness really helps add some really interesting detail. It picks out all of that work that we put in before, all that layers, the initial stones and skulls we stuck on, the technical paint we put in, the additional stones and sand and grit that I added into that, and then the technical agrel and earth that we put in that gave that really great crackle effect. And all kind of come together now. I don't know how well you can see that. Quite different from where we started off only a few minutes ago. Much more interesting. Let's just make sure we get some consistency around those schools. The bits that just quite there. Give it a once over, make sure I'm happy that we've caught enough of it. Right. Happy with that. Pleased how that's coming out now. So I'm going to clean up my mess again. Give a brush a really good clean, and then we'll paint the rim of this thing. Make sure that that's all good. It'll probably take 2 or 3 coats around and around. That's okay. That's why we're here. Let's get some fresh water, some brush soap, clean this up properly now. Make sure we lift all that pigment out of those bristles, and that it lives to fight another day for us. See that paint in there. I think the dry brushes, as they are, all meant to be a bit destroyed, but you know, if you look after them, at least they'll last more than the one use. See how that's come along. Yeah, still a fair bit in there. Let's keep going. Just make sure we get rid of it all. Da-da-da. That's pretty much there. Yeah. Okay. So our dry brush will last us another day. Now I just need to paint the rim. So I'm going to use a slightly larger brush if I can find a suitable one sitting around in my set brushes. Because otherwise with a little brush it will just take forever. And a really old number 3 brush. Tip's nearly gone, but for what I want to do it's just about alright. Paint another good shake. Bit of a spin. And away we go. Try it the other way. I have to admit, I don't really enjoy this bit. A bit tedious, but it is important. It's like putting a frame on the model. I'm not going to use this brush. I don't like it. It's like putting a frame on a photograph or a picture. It just really sets it off nicely, I find. Too small, but never mind. And all that mucky edging stuff you got here, you kind of hide it with an ice layer that goes around, and it just finishes off the model. Because it's all brown, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect for these guys. But as I said, we will need 2 or 3 times around the model. A good layer on. Certainly after about the second layer, second application, you really start seeing the benefits of the work you're doing. There we go. Right, let's keep going. Try not to touch the bits we've already painted. imagine this isn't much fun when you're painting a order of 20 something, or even 10. It's a very tedious rinse and repeat across the model. If I'm not happy with any of the edges as well, I can just give them another quick dry brush of the desert yellow, just to, or dark sand, sorry, just to catch the edges and soften off the cork, because you know that's what we did on the top bit. So just doing the same bit again, just a slight overpaint or something. It's easy enough to just add that in and correct any simple mistakes. The rest of the process I do, it's easy to fix a bit of overpaint on each layer. Where did we get to? I've just gone around mostly once. So I'll just keep going around until got an even colour all the way around. Which I suspect will be 3 on this one, looks like. Already much better with 2. Trick, I think. Let's clean the brush out again. Let's get rid of all that drying pigment. Paint's starting to dry up a little bit now, so might be time to stop using that and get a new dollop out. See how we go in a moment. Let's see then. Give it a bit of benefit of the doubt for a few more moments. bit here, then I'm going to clean the brush. I'm going to clean up the plate and get a bit more paint out. That paint up. It's 11:15. I'm going to get a beer ahead of bed. I will be back in 30-40 seconds. Henry. Oh, I'm back. Right. Where were we? A bit more of the Cork brown onto the glass. Let's continue from where we left off. I get a bit more organised. I do intend to kind of do a quick tutorial about how I do these bases. In fact, all the various bases that I do for the models. I'll get them up on YouTube at some point, but to be a little more organised before I get to that bit. Oops, a bit of paint there. Sorry. Back nearly to where we started, we can definitely see nicely. Clean the brush again. Try and keep the bristles clean. This is, of course, a little easier to hold on a smaller model. But never mind, getting there. This big is proving to be a little tricky to hold at some point, so I am going to do a quick dry brush and finish this just to catch the edges and just mute off the slight overpaint that I've got in a few of these little bits. The dog has just opened the door. It's the 3rd of October. It's quite cold now, so I'm going to have to step off for a moment again. Got the last third of that to do, and we've gone around 3 times, and I think I will be doing a final once around. I think it just needs that final once around, then I'll do the dry brush just to absolutely catch the edge, just mute off any of that overpaint. Which there is a little. We'll get to the grass turfs. Right, one last time. Go and close the door. No dog, you can't stay outside. Right, that's better. Oh, I think you let a lot of flies in. at all to push this off. This bit definitely looks like it needs an extra bit of layers going on. Done just on this last stretch now. Right, I think we've got that rim pretty much done. So, as I always do, let's clean up that little bit of paint. Let's get my brush soap. Clean the brush. For a moment or two just before putting, oh no, we're going to do a little bit of dry brushing, won't we, again? Poor brush. I also need to remind my son he needs to go to bed because he's got school in the morning. Give him a few more minutes before I do that. Still got plenty of pigment in there. Yeah, that brush is fine. Right, well, we've got this here. Let's go back. We're doing dog sand was the. I'm just going to take it down around the edges a little bit, and then it's done. Don't need a lot for this. I'm just gonna get all the way around the edge. I'm only getting the edge there. There we go. Very little to do there. It just helps. And a little overspill. Perfect. Away. No much brush. Don't paint on there. Still need to do this though, and I'm going to change my waters. Thing I'll do tonight, a relatively short stream. The last thing then is put the grass tufts on, and then I think I will be done. Quite have the energy for anything else this night. I've felt hot for a couple of days, to be honest, so I'm a bit too tired under the weather. So let's keep it short and sweet tonight. Get off to bed at a decent time. See what we can bring to the table tomorrow. Some gene stealers to go and a bit of pre-basing to do on the Screamer Killer and that Euro Tyrant as well. So I think that might be tomorrow's joy. Right, that's good. Off to the side. Let's take these and let's go and clean our water out. Oops, we don't need them again tonight. The other one as well, so we don't need that. There we go. Do need, however, there's a very old jar of PVA, a Mordian Corpsegrass. So I've got one which is nearly empty with some smaller bigger tufts, but I'll be using some of the smaller tufts from this as well. There we go. So just need a bit of a receptacle for this, which for today will be an old bottle top. So back in a moment. Thank you, Joe. There we go, from our recycling, found one. So we've got quite some larger bits and pieces on this one. I think on the new one should have some smaller ones on the other side. There we go. So we'll see what we need from these. Let's put those containers off to the side for the moment. Use my tweezers. Use my handy receptacle. It's actually relatively easy to make your own static grass tufts like these. And one day, I'll get my yak together and we'll show you. Now, we don't need too much glue on these, but any overspill will look very white to start with, but it's not too much of a problem because when we varnish this, it'll all settle down. And where I want to put these is on bits of the earth where there isn't anything particularly showing through, so none of the rough stuff, none of the stones, none of the crackle. Just pop it in. Now if you can see that, you can see a lot of white shining through there. That'll all settle down, and when we do run a varnish over it, any glossiness that's left there will just instantly come through. So we don't need to be too concerned about that really. And what we're doing here is a larger piece of PVA. Where do we want to put this one? I think just tuck it around that stone there, and that in there. Because this is a large base, I'm going to put quite a few tufts of grass on here. For a smaller one like gene sealer for example, usually no more than one, possibly two, but generally you don't need a lot on that. But because this is quite a big base and there's a lot of base to cover, I'm going to do sort of a good few around just to really give a lot more interest into the base itself. At the same time, trying to keep it random. Wants a small one there. Some smaller ones actually. There's a fair few bits around the outside here that are a bit bare. do some more on the inside as well. Like I said, don't be telling what I'm not too concerned about the white PVA showing through, because as I said, when it dries, you won't be able to tell. That's all. How are we doing? What do we need? It's a bit obvious, doesn't it? Done. Never mind. What do we think? Gimme. Where's I going to stick him? There we go. I think it's always best to stop when you think you need one or two more, because invariably you don't. You end up maybe just slightly over-egging it. Right, I think just one more. More of a largest one around the back of that protrusion. Trying to get it to stick down just there. There we go. And I am going to call it there. We've got plenty of interest on that base, bit of grass that's everywhere. We've put our edge around the base. He is practically done. He needs a varnish. Now we'll be putting some gloss varnish on the mouth, and we're wrapped up. There we go. Right, I will go and tidy off in the background. That's all I wanted to get done tonight. A short one from me, but productive. We made progress. We've got this fella nearly done. So, take care everyone. Be good, be safe. Don't be dickheads. I'll catch you next time.